Welcome back to Blender for Blogs. I'm Justin, and this is a video editing series where we're using Blender to edit videos for our blog. I'm really sorry that I haven't been with you and creating tutorials in the past few weeks. It's been crazy busy this summer, and I just haven't had much time, but I'm trying to get back to these tutorials so that we can finish this series so you guys can get the most out of editing your blogs or editing your videos for your blogs in Blender. So I do apologize. I'm going to try and do my best. But yes, I'm back here, and we've just gotten rid of our green screen, and this video is actually going to be about creating our image sequence. So it shouldn't take too long here, hopefully, if I can keep my babble to short here. But I do want to recommend a video here first. So let's do that. And that is this video here by Yog or Yog. I don't know how he pronounces that, but it's called Blender and a Bad Green Screen. It's actually got some really cool tips, and it was also on Blender Nation. So if you check out Blender Nation, you'll see that kind of, I don't know, a few weeks ago. It was before I made my first green screen one, but he has some really actually good tips on if your green screen is not really lit well, some different things that you can do. So I highly recommend checking that out as well. And it's really short too, only 10 minutes. So he doesn't babble on as long as I do. So anyway, let's go back into Blender. And this is where we left off from before. So we have our demo 0303. So the first thing I'm going to do is save as another iteration 0304. So now we are not going to be rendering a video. We're going to be rendering an image sequence. And basically what that means is we're going to render each frame individually as a PNG image. So I'm going to go to the output here, and then I'm going to select FFmpeg video and select PNG. And the reason, there's a couple reasons actually why I'm doing this. And the first one is because we want this transparency to show. And so what you're going to want to do after you hit PNG is select this RGBA. And the A stands for alpha. RGB, of course, is the red, green, and blue, which is the color. And then A is the alpha, which is the transparency. Now, I think maybe AVI RAW for the movie will show transparency, but FFmpeg video doesn't actually show the transparency. So this will all be black if you just render that in a video. So that's one reason why we're doing the image sequence. Another reason is because the image sequence, since it does render each frame individually, that means that once the frame is rendered, it's done and it's rendered. So if you have to stop Blender or if Blender crashes in the middle, basically what you've rendered in the past has not been lost. But if you render in a video, it's not like that. Rendering a video, if it doesn't render through the whole thing, you've lost it and you have to start from the beginning. So those are the couple reasons why I highly recommend doing an image sequence. So PNG, RGBA, I'm going to keep everything else here the same, except for, of course, we're going to change our output name from this. So I'm going to just delete that. We're going to keep it in our renders folder, but I'm actually going to make another folder. So I'm going to type imseq underscore, and then we're going to do 0304 because that's the iteration we're on, the B4B demo 0304 up here, backslash, and then just 0304, and then underscore enter. And basically I've created another folder here, and then here's the file name. So each image is going to start with 0304 underscore, and then the number of frame after that, as long as you keep this file extension selected here. Now, you can see overwrite is not grayed out anymore, but I'm going to leave this unchecked for now. So just do that, and then look at your resolution. You can render it at whatever resolution you want. You can do it 50% if you just want to practice with that. But I'm going to keep it for the full resolution for now, and I'm just going to come up here and hit animation and see what happens. So I'm going to hit animation and go to the folder here. Let's go to our renders. So here's our renders folder, and here's the folder that we created, our 0304 image sequence. And I'm just going to double click and go in here, and oh, look at that. it is rendering this pink image over and over and over again. Why is that? Well, let's go back to Blender and see what's going on. So I'm going to go back to Blender and hit stop. And there's not pink image here, so why is it rendering a pink image? Well, if you remember from our composite node that we have this pink color here that we put on purpose to know that if we're rendering pink images, that something was not connected right. So, and we can see that here, nothing is connected to our composite node. And if you look down here, you can see we are actually viewing our viewer node, which is this. So everything is right now connected to our viewer node, and the viewer node is all internal. So it has nothing to do with our final render. Only this does, and it's not connected. Now, and show you, if I just go to render result here, you can see that once that renders, let's say, give it a quick render here, it's the pink. So viewer node is what we have set up here, and render result is the pink. So now once we connect this in here, now we have the same thing coming to our render result. So just make sure you check your composite node before you start rendering, because when I was practicing this tutorial, I actually legitimately forgot to plug this in, and I was pretty much rendering, I don't know, it was like maybe half, and then before I actually opened up my folder here and saw all these pink images, I'm like, no! So anyway, yeah, so we've got that plugged in now, and I'm gonna, again, keep this overwrite unchecked. I'm gonna hit animation again and see what happens. So it starts from at frame 22 or 21, whichever one it started at here. Let's go back to our folder, and you can see it started at frame 21. And it did not start back at frame 1, and that's because since we did not check overwrite, it's not going to overwrite any of the frames we've rendered so far. It's going to recognize that we've already have those rendered and then start at the very next frame, which was 21. And then now it's going to keep going there. Now you can also see that these thumbnails are, there's a white background. Don't worry about that. That should be a white background. When you import it back into Blender, it'll be transparent, so don't worry about that. But let's see what happens now if we go back here, and I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to this time check overwrite, hit animation. I'm going to go back to our folder and scroll up, and now we can see all the pink images are being overwritten with our newly render setup. So I'm going to stop this here now because I don't want to actually do that. I just want to show you that that's what's going on when you check overwrite. But I'm actually going to keep overwrite unchecked for now. And instead of having them overwrite all the pink images, I'm just going to delete those pink images. So go here, select them all, delete them. Yes. And so now we have a jump. We have a jump from 8 to 21. And when you leave overwrite unchecked, it will recognize that we've already have all of these other ones, and it will not render or overwrite anything from 1 to 8. It'll start at 9, and it'll start rendering 9, 10, 11, all the way up to 21, and then it will recognize, oh, we already have 21, and it will skip all the way over until the last frame, which is 44, and it will resume at 45, which is pretty awesome. That means we don't have to change our start and end frames all the time. Blender will recognize that for us automatically. So animation, going back here and scrolling up, and you can see it's 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to go ahead and let it start rendering out, and we're going to kind of check this and see if this is what we want. So now it's on to 45. I'm going to let it render about 5 seconds worth, which is approximately 125 frames. So I'm going to let that render out 125 frames, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we are almost at 125 frames here. So I'm going to open up another instance of Blender, and I'm going to open up Video Editing Default, and I'm going to rename it as, I already started this here, let's do just Image Testing 101, save as Blender file. And the reason I'm opening up a separate instance of Blender is because I want to have access to the timeline, and as this is rendering, I'm going to keep this rendering here, and that is to save time. If I don't have to change anything, then I will just continue to have these images be rendered out. But then I can still have control over my timeline here and play them in here. So I'm going to add in an image. Going to go to our image sequence folder where all of our images are. I'm going to hit A to select all of them and then add image strip. And you can see it's combined all of the images into one strip. And that is our image sequence. And you can see if I scroll through back and forth, we have our image sequence all nicely together. Now, my resolution is not the resolution of the images, so I'm just going to, with the strip selected, go down, hit strip, and then go set render size, and boom, it is now the correct resolution. Page up, then scroll over here, or hover over here, E for end. I'm going to add, with Shift A, an effect strip, color. Grab that, move that up a little bit. Grab this, so G and then Control to snap that. And we're going to change the color here. So I'm just going to change that up here and then maybe up just slightly, a little bit of a bluish color. And you can see that it's changed here, but it hasn't changed here. And that's because we need to select our strip here and go up to the blend mode, select cross, and then select overdrop. And now we can see our image sequence is now overdrop over our color. And I'm going to change the color actually just a little bit more dark blue there. Okay, so something like this. And hit play. And you can see that's actually looking pretty good. Now the resolution is not that good because we still have our proxy size at 25. So if we hit 100%, now we can see our handiwork here. Very nice, very nice. And because I'm rendering out images still, our frames per second is going to be really low. But you can kind of get a good idea of what it's going to look like, just like that. So with this set, I'm just going to save that, and we're going to render out a video. So for the output on the video, I'm going to do /renders, and then /, and then I am seq, just naming it testing 0101 _. So this is going to be actually a video. So we're not going to, we've already rendered out our sequence. We want to test it out in a video. So we're going to keep that at FFmpeg video, RGB. This should all be set up because this was our video editing default file that we opened up. We're just going to keep all of the same defaults, just make sure they're all right here. Everything looks good. Our output is good. I'm just going to save that now with that output and hit animation. And now this is going to render out our 5-second video, roughly 5 seconds video. And then we'll check out the video when it's finished. Okay, we have our video here that has finished rendering. I'm just going to double click it and we'll check it out. All right, so actually that's not looking too bad. And you can change the color of the background if you want. And you know, if you like that, oh, I can't zoom in here. The only thing is here is my hair, again, it's a little bit, you can see flickeringly. It's flickeringly flickers. And, you know, it just depends on how perfectionistic you are. Again, this is obvious then that I have a green screen. If you're going for a more professional look, you're going to want to tweak that. And so then what you would do is, you know, you would go back in to your Blender here and you see it's still rendering out some images. I'm going to stop that. And then you would just go, you know, check your render and then tweak all of your settings again. Let's do our viewer node here because what I want is to see, you know, the matte and the edges, and basically you just tweak that. I'm probably going to do this to see if I can get the hair just a little bit better, but I'm not going to take you through the whole thing because basically the same thing we did in the last video, taking these and adjusting these, sliding these. Maybe actually adjusting the key color, which is something that I didn't do in the last video, maybe dragging that down just a little bit more. And then that might, have an effect on that. Yeah, it does. So maybe drag it up a little bit more and see what that looks like. That actually might work better. And I am going to probably tweak that, but I'm not going to actually have you guys sit through all that again. Another thing you can do is to test out certain areas of motion. So like your motion blur. And I know mine is, so I just went back up to the video editing where we have our original file, or our precut file. So there you see my hands just went like whoop, or fly in 30 something. There we go. Okay. So right about there. So you can see the motion blur on my hands at that point. So I'm going to go back here, hit render. So let it refresh. Okay, so you can see kind of what the motion blur is going to look like here, and that's not too bad. I mean, it's really fast, and you can kind of see the green there, but I mean, that's not even worth, tweaking. So what I'm going to do is let's go to 1530 here, actually, what I'm going to do is make the start frame 1530, so I'm going to hit that there. And we're just going to leave that open. I could select, 5 seconds worth here, but we're just going to leave that open. And then I'm going to, keep that the same, actually, everything the same. And then just going to hit animation here. And then I'm just going to wait till this is about 1650 something. And then what I'm going to do is go back into my other instance of Blender and then add that in. Once I have a good amount of frames, I'll import that in here. Okay, so I've rendered out a few frames here now. Let's go back to our other instance of Blender. Go to the beginning, shift left arrow, shift A to add image. And let's scroll to our 1530 where we started, which is right here. Now, if I hit shift and click, it's going to select individual ones. So I just want to click 1530 first, and then scroll all the way over to the end, and hit shift and control at the same time, and then click, and it'll select all of those. Add image strip. There we go. Grab on the Y, move that up. Go up here, change this to overdrop. And then we want to hide what's behind there. Okay, so now we can look and we can test this. And actually, whatever I tweaked just now was just kind of was random. That color, it looks like that really, really did the trick. I mean, that looks really good. I'm actually kind of surprised. So, and the other edges still look really good, actually. So I like that. I like that a lot. Let's go to where our image blur is, wherever that is over here. Okay. Let's go here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, that's actually not too bad. Look at that. Woo! We might have a winner here. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and render this out into a video here again. Let's actually save this as 102 and then put a 102 here so we can make a different video file and not overwrite our other one. And hit animation, and we will render this out and come back and test it when it's done. All right, it's done rendering. Let's go ahead and check out our video. Here's our 102, double click. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Look at that. I mean, there's a tiny bit of flicker up there, but I mean, that is really, I think that's gonna be okay. And it's gonna be okay for my purposes anyway. So I like that. I think this is gonna be a winner. If you don't like that flicker, it's all about just tweaking those settings. So I found a winner. So what I'm going to do now is, let's see, go back to it because this is still rendering. Our other one here. So this is still rendering, and I like those. So I'm going to keep the ones after 1530, but I'm going to actually delete the ones before 1530 because I'm going to just add them again. And then once it gets to 1530, it's going to skip all the way over those 1530 to 1808 or wherever I stop here. So I'm going to stop that and then go back to our image sequence here and just delete all the way up to 1530. There it is. So 300 frames. Let's select those and just delete those. I like that. And I just shift selected those in Windows. All right. So now, so now it's going to start, when I start rendering again, it's going to render them starting at frame 1 with our updated keying settings here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then, but first we've got to reset our frames. So since I didn't change the end frame, I know my start frame is 1. So just that. But if you changed your end frame and you don't remember where, let's say just end frame here, you don't remember, where it ends because there's no indication here on where it ends. That's why we kept our video in our just video editing. This is the original pre-cut footage we had. Just hit page up to go to the end here, and then hover over here and hit E for end. And there you go. Now you have your full frame range that matches exactly. There we go. So now, having done that, I'm just going to save it again, and we're going to make sure everything is okay here. Yes, we don't want to change the name. Don't want to check overwrite because we want it to skip those ones in the middle. And RGBA, everything looks good. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead. Oh yeah, make sure our compositing, it's in, let's do our render result. Make sure our render result is also the same. So let's just click render real quick here. Make sure. Yes, so this here matches this, matching is good. Compositing, here we go. All right, now I'm gonna save and hit animation. And let's go back to our folder just to make sure. Yep, 1, 2, 3, okay, good. So now it's going to be rendering out those. Now that's gonna take quite a while, and one of the things with the image sequence is that you won't know how much time is remaining because, again, it's rendering a full render for each frame. You can see the time elapsed and then kind of calculate it by how many, calculate a minute, see how many frames it takes to render in a minute, and then you can kind of get your estimate there. But yeah, that's kind of one of the downfalls of the image sequence. Also, I want to point out too, you can see that the size of these down here is it's a little over 700 kilobytes or kilobits or kilobytes. I think it's kilobytes. But anyway, yeah, so the average is about 700, and now I've got 4,561 frames. So if I calculate that with the calculator here, we've got, I'm just going to say 750 to give us some leeway, times 4,561, then we've got about 3.5 gigabytes. So just make sure you have enough, because that's how much memory that's going to, or how much hard drive space that's going to take. Okay, well, that's it. So I'm just going to let this render out. It's probably going to take a few hours. I'm guessing it's going to take 3, maybe 4 hours to do. So we will have that render out, and we'll come back and we'll put it with our original footage and our sound. Okay, so we have finished rendering after a while. I actually don't know how much time it took because I went to sleep. So let's go back to our image testing. I'm going to save this as 103, just do a little bit of a thing there, and then just so that I don't accidentally overwrite my other video. Just name that 103, enter. Okay, and I'm just going to get rid of these and add in an image, and then go to our image sequence folder, hit A to select all, add image strip, and there we go. Grab that up, change this from cross to overdrop, and there we go. Let's do home and put this at the edge here. So now our frame range is the same rate as our little image sequence here. Same thing here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the color. And since I already know that the end frame is this frame and it starts at frame 1, I'm going to copy this, Control C, by hovering over the end, come up to the length, and then Control V. And then that will change the length of the color to the same length as our image strip. And there we go. We have our image sequence here. And what we can do actually is let's do this. Let's grab this and move this up a bit. Go to the beginning. I'm going to add in our original movie file, our pre-cut footage right here. And grab this, move it up, and then grab the audio, move it up there. There we go. So what you're seeing now is actually the image sequence over top of the original pre-cut footage here, but because it's the same exact thing, you're not going to see anything different. But if I hide our footage, now we have our image sequence right along with our audio. So making them fly out or fly in, or creating bulleted lists of all your important things. There you go. Or other let's do this at 25%, and maybe I'm just going to bump this down to just for other transitions like wiping in or wiping out. There you go. And you'll also learn how to make your own motion graphic titles. All right, and then you can check to see them with pinpoint accuracy to the exact frame if our that you choose. Audio lines up with our image sequence, and it looks like it does. How to use Blender to create amazing looking videos. And that's exactly what we want. Website or blog. And so if you were skeptical of any of the places that you saw while you were testing this out, you could render test videos, but I'm not going to actually render the whole video because I don't want the video. I actually want to start phase 3 using just the image sequence over on top of some of our backgrounds, and then we'll manipulate this. We can shift this to the right or the left or up and down, however we want to do it. And so I don't actually want to render the video. I just want to keep this image sequence here. So that is it. That concludes our image sequence. Actually, it concludes phase 2. So we only have the green screen removal and then the image sequence creation. So we're done with phase 2. Woohoo! And hopefully I can get started on phase 3 right away for you guys, not to keep you waiting so long, because I know this is where a lot of our fun stuff comes in, like the fades and the transitions and putting everything together that we've created so far. And getting our words in there, getting pictures, doing animation. It's going to be good stuff. It's going to be a lot, but it's going to be good stuff. Okay, so see you in the next video with phase 3, where we actually start our editing.